Oh, hey there. I didn't see you there. You caught me while I was deep in thought. What was I thinking about, you may be asking? Well, why don't I tell you? Honestly, I've had something on my mind for a while now. And it all revolves around, well, melee weapons again. I know I already did a whole thing about that, but I wanted to share something with you all that I thought was special. Something that's been near and dear to my heart. Something that's always been on my mind. Something that I figured would help with our battle against these tyrannical haters of liberty and democracy. A war bond of sorts that I have thought of. And maybe there's something in here that you might think is cool. I don't know. Just sharing what's been on my mind. Let's hop into it. I know I wrapped up what I already said with my whole melee list, but if you're continuing to watch this, thank you, because this is less about the melee weapons, and this is just me wanting to share my ideas and opinions on something else, like a potential war bond. As someone who enjoys melee weapons, I have an idea for a war bond. I notice other people sometimes online share their ideas for what they would like to have as a war bond or in a war bond. And usually people do pretty good at displaying what they want shown through some form of art medium. My hands have been damaged from the use of all this napalm over time. I don't have the fine motor controls needed to really draw. I also don't have a tablet or one of those pens, so I can't really. So I gotta use these napalm damaged hands and a mouse and just a random canvas to try to show off my ideas. Maybe you can give your opinions on this as well. Maybe some of you might agree, enjoy my ideas, and might want to spread it to the high command. Maybe someone there might consider putting something I consider into the game. I doubt it. I'm a nobody. But as a nobody who kills a lot of, admittedly, bugs, I enjoy killing bugs. There's just something I find very fun about killing bugs. I'll fight the others from time to time, but... So my theme for this war bond would be obviously something more melee themed. Something more weapon... They're all weapons. I'm stupid. Something more, again, melee weapon themed. Something with blades. Something with maybe armor to kind of be more thematic. I was thinking of something along the lines of Liberty of the Ancients or Ancient Liberty War Bond. Something like that, where the idea is going back into ancient times using old war technology, using old war methods with new age technology. I was thinking there would be of course a light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, all themed around different types of armor types that once existed in the past. Like the light armor could be based on Spartan armor. No, not that Spartan. The ancient Spartans.
This is Sparta!
Make it give it a minimalist feel, but still make it look really cool and badass. Make it so that you have a chest plate and then you have the armored boots with the shin pads and the knee pads. And we've seen in other war bonds they don't mind having arms and sleeves exposed. even though a lot of the planets we fight on are completely exposed to the void of space, but we'll look past that. So we can have this one, the Spartan armor, without any arms or sleeves, and maybe fingerless gloves or something. Just an idea. Then you can have that really cool Spartan helmet look with like a mane going like up and back. You could also have it to where the armor kind of looks like a muscle. That sounds stupid. Looks like a muscular chest, the way they used to make certain armors look back in the day. You can maybe give it, we'll have actual pants. We don't want to be running around the battlefield without pants. Make it like a padded type of pant, because we still need to protect ourselves. It just needs to be light enough to where you can still run around and do everything you need to do. So I think that would be a decent idea for a light armor, because for the medium armor I was thinking more of like a Roman centurion. You have the centurion shaped helmet with its own little headpiece on top. We probably of course want to keep it colored in the Helldiver's theme, so maybe get some yellows. I'm not a big fan of yellow.
Oh my god.
I prefer more cool colors, neutral colors, whites, blacks, blues, purples, whatever. But maybe with like the Spartan armor, you can get a mix of a mix of yellows and reds. With the Centurion, maybe get a mix of yellows and blues. And what you could have for the Centurion armor is, the chest plate, arms. You have your forearm armor. You have the shoulder pads, the shin and knee pads as well. Give it a bit of a bulky feel to it, but not too bulky. Just make it resemble like old Centurion type armors. Maybe give it like not a skirt, but like a little extra at the bottom. I don't know how to precisely explain that look. There are certain armors in this game that kind of give the feel of what I'm looking for. And I think that would be a decent idea. And then for the heavy armor, I was thinking go with more of a European knight type of feel. And since we have, these mane or whatever type feel to the helmets already, we'll have like maybe something like here, and we can make the color palette more like either black and yellow or yellow and some sort of metallic gray. You have the knight helmet, the knight-like helmet. You have a full body sort of like suit of armor, that type of look. Chainmail would be cool, but the thing is, this is more of a futuristic thing, and I don't know if chainmail would really fit with the vibe of this. So maybe not chainmail. No chainmail. We'll use more modern day paddings in order to fill in the gaps where the armor doesn't fully cover the body. And and of course, with every piece of armor, there needs to be an armor passive, right? There needs to be something that distinguishes these armors from the other armors. My thought was we could have the armor be bladed, covered in blades. Maybe have like spikes on the shoulders. Maybe have small blades on the arms. Have small spikes or blades somewhere on the chest or on the back, on the outer thighs. Maybe have one or two armor pieces with spikes or blades on the shins. Give it a real dangerous looking feel, and make the armor passive to where I say give it a mix of things. Let's give it the one where you don't flinch when you're hit. Let's add that. I know there are certain armors that have that. And the devs, High Command, don't seem to mind placing passives from certain armors onto other armors, so why not go for that? Let's get the unflinching when hit, and then we'll make their own specific passives be if an enemy were to melee the Helldiver, let's say a third of the damage that they would have done is reflected back on them. Like a third of their melee attack damage is reflected back on them. So I guess make it also to where the armor protects the wielder from, say, a third of the melee damage that they would initially take from enemies. You're safe from a third of the damage, and then they take a third of that damage instead. You'll still take damage, and they will too. You'll both probably still be alive, but if you get swarmed, there's a good chance you're still going to die. So they take a third of their own melee damage back at them, and then also make it to where they flinch and get stunned for like half a second upon hitting you. Something like that. So they get half a second of a stun for hitting you, and they take 33% of their melee damage back at them. You'll still get hurt, whatever. And then for a fun little thing, maybe make it to where the chest bump emote, or maybe the hug emote, because you're covered in blades, if you do that to an ally, you give them hemorrhaging. It'd probably be stupid, it'd probably annoy people, but I think it would be funny. And I'm pretty sure the High Command would believe so too. Because if there's one thing those guys have shown, they enjoy diver on diver pain. Even if it sometimes makes no sense. So those are my ideas of the passive. You don't flinch when you're hit. You take, I guess, 33% less melee damage. You return 33% of the melee damage back to the enemy, and they get stunned for half a second after meleeing you. That's what I think the passive should be. But of course, these Warbonds aren't just armor. They come with other things. I was thinking, similar to how I said earlier, how the chainsaw should be a primary weapon, I was thinking there should be another type of melee weapon that could be considered a primary. Why not get like a large sword? You can make it to where it's a bit slow, like give it the machete speed if you really want to keep it from being too overpowered. Give it a bit of range, a good bit of range, maybe not as much as the lance, or maybe just as much as the lance. Give it range, but have it do cleaving damage. And it's a bit slow, but it has cleave, so it hits multiple enemies at once. So you're not entirely exposed while using it. And I kind of give it like this kind of look. Something, it doesn't have to be this exactly, but make it look something like this. Maybe you can make the guard look like golden wings. And then the handle, maybe wrap it in a sort of like yellow and blue alternating type of pattern. And the pommel, the very end, I can't decide. I think either maybe one pommel look could be like of Super Earth. The pommel looks like Super Earth. Or alternatively, it could be the head of an eagle. It would work well with the guard wings, the golden guard wings. So that would make sense. And since the devs, High Command, like to use history for some of their motivation on how certain things look and play out, the eagle has been used in a lot of different armies. The use of the eagle probably won't be that far off from anything historical. But besides the big sword as the primary weapon, we also need some other stuff to try to fill out the Warbond. Of course, we'll need a cape. We can try to give it a shredded type of look, not a shredded, but make it look like it's all its own piece, but still tie it together so it's all one piece. Something maybe like this. I think it might look cool, but High Command knows capes better than I do. And beyond that, I was thinking a stratagem. One thing that you don't see used a lot, at least I don't know about anyone else, is the stim pistol. The stim pistol doesn't seem to get a lot of use. No one seems to really care. And the people who do use it are usually really good at it, and they seem to stick with it. But not everyone's good at it, so you almost never see anyone using it. But the entire point of it is to support people. So I was thinking of like a stratagem, sort of like one of those guard dog type floating backpacks. But what it does is you can call it the squire or whatever. And historically, squires stood with their knights and supported them. They cleaned their stuff. They sharpened their weapons. They cooked their food. They were supports. But this squire backpack, what it could do is it can hold up to, let's say 20 stim pistol stims. And it'll float around, and it won't stim you until you get to like 40% of your health or lower. And then it'll stim you until you get above 40%, and then it'll stop. And it'll hold 5 stims at a time. Every time it uses up all 5 stims, it'll fly to your backpack, reload, get the next 5, and then float up again. And to make it so it's not too overpowered, I guess we can make it to where it won't stim you if you get any limb injuries. If you get limb injuries, it'll just leave you alone. It'll only stim you once you get to 40% of health or lower. And if you're still under 40%, it'll continue to heal until you're over. And I guess it'll use the same stim recovery as the stim pistol, which I know doesn't recover a lot of health. It recovers quite a little bit, quite a small bit, but usually good enough to keep you going for a while. And to make this more viable or more, I guess, usable out in the field, we can make it to where it can have like a 10, maybe 15 meter radius around the wielder, where it'll also fly to your allies and try to stim them as well under the same conditions if they're under 40% of health. It'll prioritize you as the wielder, and it'll stim you, but it'll also see other allies nearby within its range, and it'll stim them as well. And then I guess to restock it, because again it'll hold a max of 20, you'll have to either call down a new one, or you'll have to pick up, supplies to restock it. And that's its whole thing. It's just flies around, stims you, keeps you good and going. Just something more supportive, especially since this is planned to be like a melee warbond, and you're expected to be getting hit a lot, and you're expecting to do a lot of hits. It might be a good idea to have something that helps you out even just a little bit. And I guess also if you're like bleeding, like you're hemorrhaging from the chest, and you're slowly bleeding out, it won't heal you until you hit that 40% of health marker. Then it'll start healing you, but it won't get rid of the hemorrhaging. So it'll keep going until you can actually get your own stim to actually heal your own hemorrhage. It might be a bit dumb, a bit annoying, but again, I'm trying to keep in mind the fact that the devs high command enjoys watching us suffer. So I'm trying to find a balance between something that's really cool and actually useful, and something that high command wants to see us suffering with. I'm trying to find a nice little gray area between the two. Another thing about the sword that I had considered, the way you can pull up radial wheels for pretty much every weapon that changes like the distance of a scope, or changes the fire type of the weapon, full auto, semi-auto, burst, whatever. Why not give the sword a radial wheel with 2 options? It could have a one-handed option and a two-handed option. The one-handed option, let's make it even slower. Let's give it the speed of the machete or whatever, or make it slower. And then the two-handed option is faster than the one-handed option. I think that might be something cool to have. So let's say you're running around and you pick up, I don't know, one of those eggs that you sometimes find, or one of the robot heads inside the bot bases, and you gotta place it right under your arm, and now you gotta have something in your offhand. Make it to where you can do it that way, so you can at least still swing the sword. Just an idea for the radio wheel. Along with these options, I was thinking of two potential secondary options, two secondary weapons. The first secondary weapon, I was thinking of calling it the Trident. What it is it's a type of, it's like a revolver, but not a revolver. It just has the revolver cylinder, and within the cylinder are 3 metal prongs, and these prongs are electrified. And what it is you shoot one, and it electrifies the enemy. It does a little bit of damage over time, electric damage to the enemy. The first prong will electrify them for 3 seconds, and it'll do slow damage over time, electric damage. If the second prong hits, it stuns them for 2 seconds, but adds 1 more second to the electric timer. If they get hit by the third prong, it does a sort of supercharge where it does a burst of electric damage, and it can stun enemies within a radius of whoever got that supercharge. So not a lot of damage, but more meant for a bit of crowd control or something. But it could also be used where you shoot one enemy with a prong, they're electrified. You shoot another enemy with a prong, and then that links them together, and they start sending electricity back and forth to each other. So that small bit of damage over time now gets a little stronger, because now it's going back and forth between 2 people. And if you hit a third prong, as long as the enemies are within a certain radius to each other, they'll then start to spark electricity back and forth between each other, and any enemies nearby who cross the stream of that electricity also get shocked. But if the enemies are too far away to where they can't do that electric link, they don't do that AoE type of damage. So that was the type of idea I was thinking of this pistol. It works pretty much like a revolver. You just put the 3 pins in, or I guess you can load one at a time. Again, the High Command seems to enjoy weapons that are a bit not very user friendly, so you just load them in one at a time, lock it in, keep it going. The other option for a gun I was thinking of keeping it with the theme of the old world, old history type thing. I was thinking of calling it Icarus, and having it sort of like a flare gun. It's a breech loading 1-shot flare gun, and if you shoot an enemy directly, it just sets them on fire. It doesn't do a lot, but it'll have a radio wheel where it'll say 5 meters, 15 meters, and 30 meters. And what that radio wheel does is it actually sets that flare inside of it on a timer, or not a timer, but makes it to where it has to reach that certain distance. And what it'll do is, while in midair, as long as it doesn't hit anything, it'll explode into 5 little pieces that'll set the ground on fire within that, once in that area. So any enemies within that area get set on fire. But you have to aim it properly, and you have to make sure you have the right distance set so you can make it rain fire. But all the flare has to do is reach that distance, 5 meter, 15, 30. And whether that's horizontally or vertically, once it reaches that range, then it'll explode and rain down fire. I think that would be a cool little weapon to have. And again, make it to where if it hits someone just before it reaches its optimal distance for breaking apart, bursts into 5 different smaller flames that hit the ground and set anything on fire. Another stratagem weapon idea that I had was something that I like to call the detonation javelin. It's more or less straightforward, but I'll explain it a bit more. It's kind of like a spear. It's a javelin. It's a stratagem that you would call down, and with it looks like, metal rod, bladed tip. Its main purpose is to be picked up off of your shoulder, as all stratagems are, and what you're supposed to do with it is you're supposed to throw it, just toss it, and its primary goal is to just pierce everything in front of it, unless something has heavy enough armor to where it gets stuck in it. But it's supposed to be thrown, it goes through multiple enemies, and it lands wherever it lands. And what makes this one unique is that it will have like some sort of smart drone technology in the handle somewhere, and it'll be connected to a sort of recall gauntlet that would be on your arm. So let's say you throw it at enemies. In order to recall it, you click the reload button and you'll raise your hand up in the air, and if it's within, let's say 30 meters of the person who threw it, it'll just come straight back. And if there's anything or anyone in the way, it'll pierce right through it just to get to your hand. And I guess that's good for the devs high command, because it has potential to pierce through your allies as well. And again, they seem to enjoy releasing things that kill other Helldivers, so why not go with this? So it's a javelin that's meant to pierce through enemies when thrown, and is meant to pierce through enemies when recalled. But it also has more functions. If you completely forget about it, if you toss it, it lands somewhere, and you run off without recalling it. Once you get past the short range window, which would be the 30 meters, once you get over 30 meters, you then have to wait for it to fly up into the air and make its way to you. And the further you are from it, has more of a delay until you eventually get it back into your hands. And as long as you have one, you can't just get a new one. You have the one, and that's it. So you always have to keep track of where you threw it, if it's equipped on or waiting on your back to be used again, that sort of thing. And since it's a melee weapon, I guess if you click the quick melee button, you could do a quick stab with it. But the primary fire mode is to throw it. But if you open up a radio wheel, what you have is you have your throw option, and then you have your detonate option. And what that does is that it primes the thing into an explosive. And you throw it, it lands into an enemy, it sticks into them, and then it does an explosive attack. It explodes. Maybe not make it as strong as, say, like dynamite or one of the heavy explosives, but make it do a significant amount of damage. Because the main thing is you're only supposed to have one of these until you get a reload, until you get like a supply pack or ammo pack, and then you reload and get a new one. So you have one, you only have one. Once you throw one that detonates, then you lose your one, and then you have to get an ammo reload in order to get a new one. So I guess that prevents it from being too overpowered. But that's the main thing I was thinking for this specific stratagem. You can have a quick thrust melee, make it so that it's another thing that you can use one-handed, maybe have a shield with it, do a quick thrust. And this would make sense as a stratagem if you ask me, because now it has more potential to be something more that's worth calling over some other things, maybe. Or have it to where it has the exact same explosive potential as a single fire expendable rocket. It probably wouldn't have that much explosive potential, but you could make it if you wanted to. But the main thing, you throw it, pierces many enemies, goes through them. You recall it, it pierces anything that's in its way when it comes back. If it hits something with heavy armor, rather than, it's probably not going to go through the heavy armor. It probably make it so it won't deflect either. Make it so like it gets stuck in the heavy armor. So if you have to recall it, it like takes a second or two to wiggle out of the armor before coming back to you. So it also makes you think smart about what you throw the thing at. But it also makes it so if you want to detonate, it can stick into that thing to do the damage. So like say if you like throw it at a charger and you hit it in one of its legs and it gets stuck in there. If you have it on detonate mode, it'll at least do enough damage to destroy the armor that's covering the leg, but it won't outright kill the thing. I guess as an example. And again, in case I didn't make it clear enough, if you're over 30 meters away, when you recall, rather than it coming straight for you, and because normally if you would recall it normally, you just lift your hand up a little bit, sort of like this, but open-handed. The gauntlet on your arm calls out to the drone that's inside the shaft of the javelin. Recalling it, it comes back, you grab it, and you continue using it. If you're over 30 meters, it has to take a second to lift up from wherever it is and then fly through the air and eventually get back to you. So it's not piercing through anything, it's just flying to where it needs to be. And you can have a different sort of animation, maybe have your hand up here like this, but again, open-handed, and it's you trying to recall. And again, the further it is from you, the longer it'll take to get back to you. Maybe not too long, but long enough to where you'll remember, oh, I should probably reload this often enough to where it's always coming back to me. And the final idea I was thinking was a vehicle. Small, nothing too big, nothing too crazy, nothing too extravagant. Just a small vehicle called the Chariot. And it'll be one of these 3-wheel vehicles. Not a tricycle, exactly. There are 3-wheeled vehicles that exist. It'll have the 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back, with the seat somewhere in the middle. It's not really meant to carry a lot of people. It's more meant for like maybe 1, maybe 2, definitely 1, but maybe 2 people. I think what would make the Chariot unique is if maybe you had like blades in the front, like 3 blades in the front. So if you run into something, you slice it up, you do damage to it. You do a little bit of bludgeoning as well because you're ramming into it. Whatever, it's meant to do melee damage, essentially. It's meant to run things over. And then also on the wheels, the 2 front wheels have those spikes that stick out on the sides, or like those tri-tipped twisted blades that come to a point at the tip. I forget what those are called, but have those like coming out of the sides of the wheels. So as you're driving and you pass something, if you don't hit something head on, if you just pass something, you still slice it up. Maybe you damage its legs or you cut its legs off and you just keep going. And what you could do is on the seat, on the top of the seat, just above where the driver's head would be resting, you have a little handle. And on the rear wheel have two metal pins out on the sides, to where if there was to be a passenger, the passenger could just jump onto it. They'll stand on those metal pins and they'll hold onto the handle on the seat in front of them, and you can essentially ride around with 2 people. I think that would be pretty cool. And if someone's using like a one-handed weapon, be a primary, a secondary, or if they're carrying that thing underneath their arm, they'll be able to use that. Make it to where that can be a one-wheeled type of weapon. And then you can fire your one-handed weapon while on the move. But if you don't have that, if you only have 2-handed weapons, or if you don't have anything that can be used as one-handed, you just have both hands on this little handlebar and you just ride along. I think that'd be a it'd be a pretty cool idea. It's more or less all melee themed, but it's also more old history themed as well. Because again, the idea of the trident, it's a real thing. And then you have Icarus. Icarus was the man who made wings, flew too close to the sun, his wings burned off, and he fell back to Earth. And that's sort of where I was going with this. You shoot the flare, and it breaks apart and creates fire as it falls down. So that's more or less my idea of a Warbond. I don't know if anyone else would be interested in it. I think it would be cool as a melee themed idea, because again, I feel like having primary weapon melees would be really cool. You just add the chainsaw, the defoliation tool to the primary slot, have this big old two-handed sword also in the primary slot. I think it would be cool. But of course, when you think of something yourself, of course you're gonna think it's cool. But I'm wondering what you all would think. If you all even made it to this point, if you all even stuck around, feel free to share it, see if anyone else may agree or disagree. Feel free to share to maybe someone in high command. Given I'm a nobody, they probably won't listen. Be like, just send him to the front. If he dies, we don't have to hear him talking about this anymore. Whatever. But if you like it, say so. Hit a like button. Whatever. I just wanted to give my opinions on something that I thought a good addition to our attempts to... Not even our attempts, because we are bringing liberty. It doesn't matter if it's on 4 legs, if it's on tentacles, or if it's on metal stilts. We bring liberty. And all I want is to give an idea of how to better bring liberty.